What happens when an entire generation decides it's had enough? I've been thinking about that because over the past week, we've watched students from across India gather together around the NEET controversy, demanding accountability and reforms to the country's examination system. The movement's already achieved one of the outcomes many of the students were asking for, with the education minister stepping down. And although questions are still being asked and what a lot of students still believe demands accountability, but I think what's already happened deserves appreciation, because it's reminded us what people are capable of when they decide to stand together. Naturally, a lot of people are focused on the politics of these protests, but it's got me thinking about something else, the psychology behind them. For a long time after COVID, I genuinely believed that something permanent had changed about us. It felt like a lot of people have become more comfortable living through screens than alongside each other. Right from conversations to communities to disagreement, it all formed online. And somewhere along the way, I wondered whether we'd become less willing to physically stand beside each other for something we believed in. Watching this movement across the country made me rethink that. Seeing thousands of students gathering together, organizing themselves, standing shoulder to shoulder around something they believed in, is truly inspiring, and I think it's healthy. Whether it's about education, healthcare, the environment, or something else that shapes people's lives, it's just encouraging seeing a generation that still believes that showing up can make a difference, right? And something else that stood out was social media. I spent a lot of time on this channel talking about its downsides, how it competes for our attention and how easy it is to lose hours without even realizing. And I still believe in all of that, but moments like this are a reminder that every tool depends on how you eventually use it. And in this case, social media wasn't just entertainment. It was organization, it was communication, it was a way for people from across the country to find one another, to share information, and to rally behind a common cause. Whatever your political view might be, this is something worth recognizing. Technology can isolate us, but can also unite us. And I don't think we acknowledge the second part often enough. But watching all of this unfold reminded me that people still want to belong to something that's bigger than themselves. They still want their voices to matter. And perhaps COVID didn't take that away from us after all. Maybe it just interrupted it. And seeing that spirit return has genuinely been encouraging. Because ultimately, accountability matters. The willingness to participate matters. And a generation that cares enough to peacefully organize around something it believes in is, in my opinion, a healthy sign of a democracy. And perhaps the most encouraging thing wasn't what changed politically, but it was a reminder that people are still willing to stand beside one another when things really matter. And in a world that feels increasingly disconnected, I think that's something worth holding on to. So, thank you for listening as always. I'll see you guys next week.